So AP VoteCast is our survey of the American electorate that asks them how and why they're voting. It's something that we use to explain the election, explain the electorate. We do a number of things with this survey. We try to understand who voted and how, for example, different demographic groups, whether that's men and women, whether it's white, black, and Latino voters, whether it's white voters with and without college degrees, which have been a major breaking point in elections recently. We also explain using AP VoteCast what the attitudes and opinions of the electorate were as they were going to the polls. We're trying to understand there some of what might have motivated them, what they want the people who they're voting for to do when they get into office, what the most important issues were, and their feelings about the country and the economy. AP moved in 2018 away from using exit polls, partly because the way that Americans vote across the country has changed dramatically. Many Americans now vote either by mail or in person, but not on election day itself. They're voting early. The rules around that vary by state, but it's a really significant portion of the electorate who now vote that way nationwide. Instead, we survey people a combination of ways. We send them postcards. They can then take the survey either online or by phone. We call them up if they haven't taken the survey by either calling in or going to the website. And then we supplement that with some additional online interviews to expand the survey sample size and reach hard-to-reach groups. So we start interviewing people in the week leading up to Election Day, and we continue to survey them all the way up through polls close. And we're asking people, are they voting, how they're voting, so that we can understand the dynamics of how people are voting when they're going to the polls versus voting by mail, which has been a major difference between how people vote if they're Democrats and Republicans, with Democrats being a lot more likely to vote by mail and Republicans more likely to vote in person. So we're trying to understand that dynamic. On this survey, we ask people about not only how they themselves are voting, but also what brought them to the polls. What are the important issues facing the country? How do they feel about the direction of the country? How do they feel about the president? How do they feel about the economy? We're also trying to understand their opinions on all of the important issues facing the country. In 2022, we'll be asking them questions about things like inflation and abortion and other major issues that are facing this electorate that are different from in the past, and trying to understand how those have influenced this election. One of the things that we really like about this survey is that we built it so that we have a really large sample size all across the country. In battleground states, we might be surveying up to 4,000 people. Across the country, we're surveying hopefully upwards of 100,000 people. Something that allows us to do is to understand the attitudes of opinions, not just of large groups, like men and women, but also really small groups. It helps us know how smaller religious groups, like Mormons and Muslims, are voting all across the country. It also allows us to understand in deeper ways some groups that usually we've only been able to scratch the surface on.